Another 30 seconds or so. You want to brainstorm? Very good. You ready to go? Let's rock today. Right? Hopefully that was alright. Maybe even learning more from doing the writing than doing the math. I guess it should look like that, and that, and that, and that. Something like that. Okay? And I had this interesting brainstorm last night. The U.S. I have two friends now who are in the foreign service. They work in other countries on behalf of the USA. One of them works in Yemen, which is behind Joaquin.
Right next to Omar.
Right next to Omar. Oh man. And one works in Bolivia. Right there. Alright, so I have these two friends who are working for the USA. My only question is, why should the USA or any country be up in another country's business? What would be a reason to get involved somewhere else? It's a hard brainstorm. I found 7 reasons. Would you brainstorm in your pairs? What would be a reason why the USA or anybody would be up in somebody else's business? Right.
Protection, defense.
Why?
Well, my teachers are no. Don't touch the market.
So defend the market.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's probably used as defense, like voice maybe. Like the U.S. goes for, not Cuba, Vietnam, I guess.
The U.S. always thinking they know other people.
No, that's not the question.
Fear, but there are others. But fear,
Alright, very good. What's
That's
that?
why.
they care for them.
I love it. I love the positive conversation. So I have why intervene conquering other places. Tashina said get more territory. Lynette, welcome back, said promote trade and business interests. And I think I heard Amiri say get allies. What's another reason to get involved?
Protection.
Huh?
For protection in a way.
Say more.
Like, they probably use the ambassadors as scouts, sort of, to see if other countries like in danger to protect yourself.
Yeah, man. If a country's planning an attack on the USA, I want to get up in their business, right? Something like that. Go on.
Protect investments.
Protect investments. Promote trade. Protect investments. What do you mean by that?
Like if there's a US-owned company in a country and it's like not doing so well, or like a new system is threatening its like survival during
If I got a factory in South America, then I want go on. If I have a factory in South America, I want to protect that factory. Yeah. Even. Huh?
To seek military.
What do you mean?
Like, when they become allies, they can, if somebody invades another country, they can actually send troops from the ally to the country.
Isaiah, would you show yours?
Oh, I said to defend democracy.
What do you mean?
Because during this time period, radicalization, we see that communism was about to enter America through Cuba. So maybe they want to defend their democracy by building new allies.
I added, Angela, I'm going to take one and then I'll go to you. I added one more. Some people might intervene somewhere to educate others. The idea of the white man's burden. I'm just throwing it out there. Throwing it out there. No joke.
I was gonna say with the protect yourself from danger, like it's to like prepare like for like if you find out that another country's doing something, you could prepare in advance before they attack you or something like that.
And that's interestingly what we did in Iraq. Right? We were nervous that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, and so we got up in their business. And it lasted for about 10 years.
That was Iran.
All right. So these are all reasons to maybe get on somebody's business. All right. Good opening brainstorm. That'll come back in a bit. Let me tell you what we've been learning about. Remember this map?
Yeah.
This map is what you get if you Google image search Cold War map. The blue countries represent U.S. and its allies, while the red countries represent the Soviet Union. And we have learned about this story unfolding in this place, that place, Cuba, this place, Nam, Vietnam, Iran, and Latin America. Everywhere they've gone, specific controversies have occurred with the rise of people like Castro, with the civil war between the Sandinistas and the Contras in Nicaragua, with the Ayatollah and with the South Vietnamese. Very interesting stories. Today, we're going to have a little debate about this topic. Taishida, oh shit! Damn it. Sorry. I messed up my script. Alright, Cold War is always leading the fights of these kind of people. And this is a very controversial topic. It was even controversial in 1968. My parents were in college at Kent State University. There was a riot. People protesting the Vietnam War. And 4 students were shot by local policemen in the USA. That's how crazy this story of Cold War protesting is.
Today marks the 30th anniversary of the Kent State shootings. 4 students were killed by the Ohio National Guard during anti-Vietnam War protests. CNN's Gary Tuckman brings us the words and pictures that have endured.
It's an image etched in our minds, a reminder of how the Vietnam War came home via Ohio's Kent State University. It was a Kent State student who took this picture. His name is John Philo.
My initial reaction was to flee, stop myself, and then notice this woman run up, kneel down beside him.
The woman was actually a 15-year-old girl screaming in horror as Kent State student Jeffrey Miller lay dying. One of 4 students killed on May 4th, 1970 by Ohio National Guard troops called to campus to quell Vietnam War protests.
It was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So everybody came out, there were kids laying on the ground, running all over the place.
Bob Carpenter was the news director of the Kent State student radio station. Breathlessly, he told his listeners on that day of National Guardsmen opening fire, claiming their lives were in danger. But Jeffrey Miller was 85 yards away when he was shot. And Allison Krauss, William Schroeder, and Sandy Scheuer were even farther.
There's a day in my life that doesn't go by that I wake up or have some conscious thought of this. I was in Vietnam twice before. I didn't have the fear that I had on this campus. Helicopters swooping down, tear gas, bullets.
Clearly a very controversial, interesting time in America as people debated whether the U.S. government was doing the right thing, creating affairs in other people's business. Today we're going to decide how we fall in the debate. Okay? Tashina, would you please read the name?
Arguments for and against U.S. intervention in the Cold War by participating in the seminar.
Thank you. Okay. So Mariana, what are we trying to do today?
We're deciding whether or not the U.S. could have the right to intervene in the Cold War.
You got it. Okay. The way we're going to get there is we already reviewed some Cold War stuff and talked about how controversial the Cold War is. We're going to start with a brainstorm, write it, and then we'll move to a discussion. And then I'll throw some documents into the discussion, and we'll talk more. Okay? The closing is just going to reflect on this seminar, and that's why the index card is on your desk. We'll pass those to you. All right. So, The opening question is on a scale of 1 to 4, 4 being it was appropriate for the USA to get involved in other people's business, 1 being no, USA, stick by yourself. How appropriate was it for American politicians to intervene in other regions in order to take copies? That's my question. Would you stake out an argument and defend yourself on your lease? Your pen stops moving. If your pen stops moving, we're going to keep dancing over it. And drop your pens. And we can take 20 seconds to move to our discussion seating. 20 seconds, Ian. Otherwise, I'm going to make you do it again. Hurry up, Ian. 5 seconds. Hustle, hurry. Yeah. 1 second. Okay, okay. Very nice, very nice. And how many people said it's a 4? It's totally appropriate for USA to be up in people's business. 3s? 2s? 1s. Talk to the person next to you for a minute, starting from either my side, okay, if you're on the corners, or from my side if you're in the rows. Okay. So, yeah, start from me. Okay, so you're either talking that way or that way. Go.
So, I completely agree because it's understandable that they want to but I didn't give it a complete 4 because it's still not like they shouldn't be worried about it. It's not like this is all the way on the other side of the world, so it's not like easily affect their country directly.
I gave him 2 because I do believe the USA should have supported other people's business defending their country and increasing welfare. However, I think there's a limit to that interference because you can't disrupt other people's beliefs, other people's get offensive their own things.
So, we're going to have a quick discussion using our info from our past week of learning, and I'll throw some documents in. If you want an organizer, you could organize it this way. Arguments for and arguments against. But, you know, if you just want to take the notes other ways, that's fine. Can I just do a quick count one more time? I don't want to lose too much time. But, so I had 0 4s. How many 3s? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, how many 2s? Whoa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Which leaves us 3 1s. Is that right? 1s? 1, 2. Alright, I guess not. Fine. Okay. We'll see if the discussion changes your opinions by the end. Would anybody like to make a point about why the USA should or should not have been involved in other people's business? Miss Jagasaurus.
I said that I gave it a 2. I said it wasn't really appropriate in most cases for Americans to get involved in other countries' affairs. And I said in places like Vietnam, it led to bigger problems because I think 50,000 American soldiers died throughout the Vietnam War. So it just led to bigger problems in the long run. So it was no point for America to get involved in the first place.
So good. Thank you for listening to Amy. Somebody going to build? JF going to build on Amy?
I actually think that the U.S. should have gotten involved, but the way that they did it was wrong. Because what they could have done was instead of forcefully trying to change them from communist to anti-communist, they should have just taken it to the United Nations.
Say more about that.
Like, if they are leaders of this United Nations that brings everybody together, why would you secretly try to convert to something that they don't really want to do? Speaking on it verbally would save. Would have had saved many lives. I don't know.
Let's hear some other arguments for and against. Richard.
I agree. And I would like to add on, I don't think they should have taken those harsh actions, using the napalm strikes against them, because it killed, even though it helped them, but it killed innocent civilians in Vietnam, and that's why some people in the United States were angry with what they were doing. I agree, they should have taken it to the United Nations, because instead of taking harsh action, they could just talk it out and see what they could do. But I still think they should have gotten their business, because they're losing trade with these places and stuff, so that's why they should have what they're talking about.
Let's keep going on the arguments for. Somebody who rented a 3 maybe, or suggested that the arguments for. Ash, what that?
Even though I did give it a 2, I said the U.S. might have still had reason to intervene in Vietnam, because they were allies with the leader of South Vietnam, and I guess they had investments there, because in the document we read in class, the Viet Cong said that they would take private-owned businesses and give it back to the state. So the U.S. investments were in danger.
U.S. investments were in danger, and we said that was a reason to get involved somewhere else. Okay, nice tie back. Nice tie back. Others, yeah.
I gave it 2, the reason that it could have, that should have, everything could have came out because of the domino theory. So even though in the long run they were sort of paranoid with the idea and they wanted to take them out of the whole communist thing, they still had to reassure themselves that they would be safe from communism, because through the domino theory thing that communism would spread throughout the countries and then they would eventually turn on America.
Can we talk more about that domino theory? Why is the U.S. so afraid of communism?
I would say that for number 7 to protect protect democracy or defend it. I mean, if, for example, Nicaragua became communist, they were fearful by having a communist country like in their own backyard, like other countries in the Western Hemisphere were going to follow Nicaragua and Cuba, so they were being fearful that by leaving them alone, their communism was going to be spread more outside the
So what? What's so bad about communism? Communism is an idea, Mariama.
I think they're scared of losing their freedom because the U.S. they base their whole idea around like the freedom of speech and all that. Like communist countries really don't have that, so I think they're scared of losing that.
Yvette, what do you think of Mariama's comment? I think he said communist countries don't really have freedom of speech. They're afraid of losing that. I don't believe her. Is that true? Communist countries don't have freedom of speech?
In Russia, they outlawed all other political parties, and I think no, that's true. Yeah.
Let's keep going, ladies.
To add on to what she was saying, I think they outlawed all other newspapers than the bourgeoisie newspaper in Russia.
Proletarian newspaper?
Proletarian newspaper in Russia. So I guess it is limiting like freedom of press and freedom of speech that we have in America.
Therefore?
Therefore, the United States was afraid that if the communist countries take over, they would have to become communist as well.
Yeah. And yeah, sure, John.
Like US was scared because they thought that their people will revolt like everyone else, like Cuba when Fidel and others, and they revolted against the Cuba communists, that people revolt and
Thanks, guys. Hopefully our discussion is building. I'm going to throw in 5 documents, okay? It's 3 Word documents, there's 4 Word documents and 1 cartoon to build on our discussion. We're going to take about 7 minutes with these guys. All right, I want you to blitz through them like Hitler blitzed through Poland and tag them. Too soon, man. Annotate them for whether they support or disagree with American intervention in the Cold War. Set it down. Sorry. Well, it makes sense because we're going to all right, dive right in. Enthusiastically, you are thinking like you were on the AP exam. quick, can you tag it, decide what argument you're going to make? Can you give me what you're thinking? Alright, if you're finished, please prepare an argument based on these documents. Alright, before we dive back into the whole class discussion, let's take a second review progress. What document stands out to you as helping the arguments either for or against intervention? And are any of the documents biased or unbiased? Those would be my two questions. Okay? Alright, let's dive back into all you guys. All right. Number two, tell me about the white man's right. You're saying churches are racist and makes white people the best.
No, I like Dr.
I like this. That is the best. That is the best thing for all.
What are these called?
You made any documents? All of the documents.
It's named the numbers.
There's names.
That was three.
Because I said you guys are very much lines. I said which ones are who.
Yeah. Okay, coming back. I would like to introduce two more documents, but maybe it shows you my bias. My documents come from my favorite website, Gapminder, and they remind us that in 1935, Joseph Stalin purged his party enemies within communism, within the USSR, leading to an average life expectancy in Russia for that year of 0. And that collective farming often led to starvation as people resisted the collectivization of their farms, leading to a massive famine in places like the Ukraine, which is above Kevin's left hand. as you can see. Thank you, Vanna. Okay. So, these are the two documents I would like to introduce. Let's go back to you guys. What documents are interesting? What documents make you want to ask a little more? Have you changed your opinions? Maybe somebody who hasn't spoken yet. Sure, Ariana.
I said document 5 stood out to me.
Keep it a little louder.
I said document 5 stood out to me because it says, on that unhappy island, as in so many other areas of the concept, the news has grown worse instead of better. It is not the first time that communist tanks have rolled over.
Gallant means brave.
Gallant men and women fighting to redeem the independence of their homeland. And I said, I think I really want to rate 2 to 3 because it's basically saying that the people in Cuba have no say, basically, and they're fighting for their independence. So it's almost like they have no voice at all. And that I think John F. Kennedy was trying to prove that they had a right to intervene because when you're being basically, when your independence is being taken away, you need somebody to speak up for you. And I think they were too small of a country to revolt. So I think that's why he was a voice for them.
Please respond regarding document 5. Janelle, you have a response?
Oh, well, I wasn't going to say for document 5, but I was talking about like document 2, where basically Stalin replies to Churchill. I think the fact that Stalin's comparing Hitler and Churchill, I think he's suggesting that the United States is no different than them. That they're just they just want to like basically do what they want to do. They're not open to new ideas and things like that. And when he talks about how the Soviet Union lost 20 million people, I think that's him being bitter. Like he's just saying that the United States needs to like step back because they're causing all these deaths and everything. But he's only thinking this because communism is his way of thinking. So he's not really open to new ideas either. So he's sort of being a hypocrite in a way too.
Thank you, Janelle. Keep building, you man.
It's in document 2 where he says he wants to make sure that its neighbor countries are loyal. And how can you call these peaceful wishes of the Soviet Union decided to expand? I'm saying loyal to what? Like he wants to make every single country communist and that's actually wanting to expand his own nation, wanting to expand the USSR. He's making every single nation be loyal to them, not to their own ideals or their own independence.
Could you tie that idea to the question of the day about the right to intervene or not?
I would say that America did actually have the right to intervene because they were opposing the USSR. So in a way, they were actually fighting for other countries' freedom instead of their own.
The USA fighting for other countries' freedom. I'm wondering if we can go back to Ariane's point about document 5. Ariane, I believe you said that we see evidence in document 5 that communism and oppression are taking over in Cuba. Does anybody want to dive in and say, well, APT, I don't know, Alondra?
This source is kind of biased because it's John F. Kennedy saying this, so of course he would defend what the U.S. is doing. So I think that it would be better if we had like a communist from Cuba saying something to see what they believe is happening in their homeland and what they think is, to see if what they think is being done is correct.
Thank you. Devon, build please.
A source that supports Ariane's point was source 3, document 3 and it was like communist countries saying that like communism is a dictatorship and they feel oppressed, so like this document does support Ariane's point.
What in the text makes you say that?
It said the so-called dictatorship of the proletariat, which is the beginning of and under the best circumstance becomes the authority of the party. Inevitably evolves into the dictatorship of the leaders. So it shows that communism is a dictatorship after all.
Mr. Garcia.
Although communism does build dictatorship, the same dictatorship
dictatorship communism built in Russia, Soviet Russia, was the one that helped win World War II for the Allies. So in a sense, communism.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Because I don't follow your logic.
Well, the reason why Germany's Nazi Germany's
Lost.
Loss was due to like their invasion of Soviet Russia, where the Soviets they actually pushed back on the Germans, which was actually kind of a turning point in the war. So then after that, since Germany couldn't have to fight that war to defend its own self, and then all the wars outside of that frontier, or I remember there was like a two-front war in Germany, so if communism helps fight back other threats, that means communism itself is sort of it's not very it's not a threat to democracy. It helped democracy win the war. So it's in a way I think America wasn't justified, because like democracy, communism wants to protect its own ideals and wants to protect its own country and the world itself from other threats.
Cool point. I love how you tie it to another historical event. Mr. WP, you want to respond?
You know, I kind of like disagree, because like the reason like America, like document 1 explains like basically like the prime reason why like America was afraid of communism, because it said like Stalin, he didn't act based on like explaining or cooperation. He basically like what he says goes, and he says it's absolute submission, and whoever didn't basically like follow would basically get penalized harshly by subsequent moral or physical annihilation. So basically, like if you were to impose communism, basically if you didn't follow it, Stalin would basically either kill you, or you had to either leave any Soviet or communist-owned place, because you would be placed under authority, you would lose leadership, or you would be removed from it. And like democracy, like even though if you didn't follow it, we didn't really penalize you for it. We didn't, like America didn't really kill you for it, or basically penalize you. And that's why America is basically afraid of communism, because communism, once it's imposed, it's basically imposed. You're forced to live by it, or you're forced to die by it. But democracy, you don't have to.